رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ونبينا وحبيبنا وقدوتنا ومولانا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Respected brothers and sisters in Islam, firstly thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for granting us the tawfiq and the ability to perform our Maghrib Salaah with Jama'ah. Alhamdulillah. We make dua, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our Salah with Jama'ah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us steadfastness and istiqamah. Ameen Rabbil Alameen. My beloved brothers and sisters in Islam, this evening we continue with the chapter. Imam Suyuti rahimahullah starts a new chapter in this chapter, Ma'rifatul Mayyit biman yughassiluhu, the chapter regarding the deceased and the knowledge regarding the deceased in terms of who is washing and performing the ghusl upon him, and the condition of the deceased person while his janazah is taking place. What is the condition of the deceased while the janazah takes place, or his janazah takes place? And Imam Suyuti rahimahullah, he brings a few narrations. And the first, عن أبي سعيد الخدري رضي الله عنه أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال: إن الميت يعرف من يغسله ويحمله ومن يكفنه ومن يدلي في حفرته. That he mentioned that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that indeed the deceased person, he knows who is washing him, who is performing his ghusl. ويحمله, he knows who is carrying him. وَمَن يُكَفِّنُهُ, and he knows who is the one who's making his kafan and shrouding him. وَمَن يُدْلِيهِ فِي حُفْرَتِهِ, and the deceased person also knows that who will be the one who will be placing him in his grave, who will be in the grave, putting him in the grave and closing up the grave and burying that person. So here, my beloved brothers and sisters in Islam, and that's why we always hear the ulama stresses the importance, and when we when we are amongst those who make the ghusl of the deceased, it is important to always preserve the honor of the deceased. It doesn't mean the person is not alive anymore, so we can handle him in whichever way we want. No, we still need to honor and respect the deceased, because as a hadith mentioned from this hadith of Rasulullah, the deceased person is aware and he sees the one making his ghusl, and he sees the one kafaning him, and he sees the one carrying the cattle, he sees the one burying him. He's aware of all of these things. In another narration, Imam Suyuti rahimahullah and Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال: ما من ميت يموت إلا وهو يعرف غاسله ويناشد حامله إن كان بشر بروح وريحان وجنة نعيم أن يعجله. In this hadith, Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that even though the narration is weak, but there are other stronger hadiths supporting this narration. It is mentioned that when the person who passes away, that this person, he knows who is performing his ghusl, and this person, he addresses the one carrying him. If he was given glad tidings of Jannah, if this person was given glad tidings of Jannah, he will address the person carrying him, that this person should be in a hurry to take him. Because why? Allah showed him his Jannah, and he wants to be in a hurry to go towards this reward which Allah has promised and showed him. And this is strengthened by another hadith, a more authentic hadith, where Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, فَإِنْ كَانَتْ صَالِحَةً قَالَتْ قَدِّمُونِي. If it was a righteous person, he would say, قَدِّمُونِي قَدِّمُونِي, don't delay. Please take me to the maqbarah, bury me and get it done with. Why? Because why? His reward, Allah showed him his reward already. Allah showed him his Jannah already. And for that reason, he will address the one carrying him. And then the hadith mentioned, وَإِنْ كَانَ بُشْرَ بِنُزُلٍ مِنْ حَمِيمٍ وَتَصْلِيَةِ جَحِيمٍ أَن يَحْبِسَهُ. And if this was a person, as the narration mentioned, غَيْرُ صَالِح, he wasn't a pious person, he wasn't a righteous person, he was someone who disobeyed the command of Allah, who disregarded the command of Allah, this person, he will address, after he has been shown the punishment that awaits him, he will say to this person, to the one carrying him, that where are you taking me? Please keep me, don't take me to the maqbarah. In the hadith mentioned, if Hadith mentioned actually that everyone hears this except for insan. Everyone hears the cry of the deceased person except for human beings. If they are to hear it, says Rasulullah, they would immediately faint out of fear of what they are hearing. Out of the scream of the deceased person, if he wasn't righteous, if he was someone who disregarded the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then another hadith of Rasulullah mentioned, إذا مات الميت فملك الموت قابض نفسه فما من شيء إلا وهو يرى عند غسله وعند حمله حتى يوصل إلى قبره. That Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam says, when the person, the deceased, has passed away, he is kept by the malaika. The malaika keeps his ruh, and his ruh is by the malaika in the room where he is laying, his body is laying, and he sees everything as he mentioned. He sees the one making his ghusl, he sees the one putting on his coffin, he sees the one carrying his mayyit. Another hadith of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we end up with this hadith where Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam is mentioned that ما من ميت يموت إلا روحه في يد ملك ينظر إلى جسده. There's not a person who passes away except that that an angel is responsible for his ruh. He keeps the ruh of this person. ينظر إلى جسده, and this person looks at his body. He looks at his lifeless body that is there. And how this body has been made ghusl and washed. كيف يغسله, how it is washed. And that's why again, bringing to our attention that when we are part of those who, and that's why it's good when our fathers or our mothers pass away, it is good for one of the family members to be there. So we can take special care of them. So we can be there to see that everything goes well. Because the deceased is aware of what's happening. وَكَيْفَ يُكَفِّنُهُ, how he's been kafan. وَكَيْفَ يُمْشَى بِهِ, and how he'll be carried and walked. وَيُقَالُ لَهُ وَهُوَ عَلَى سَرِيرِهِ إِسْمَعْ ثَنَاءَ النَّاسِ عَلَيْكَ. And then as the person is laying and the people is visiting and the people is greeting, the hadith mentioned the malak will address the ruh and says to the ruh, to the deceased ruh, he says, listen to the praise of people for you. Listen to the praise of people for you. And this obviously will make the deceased person happy. And that's why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned in the hadith, "Udhkur mahasina mawtakum," that mention the good things of your deceased brother or sister. Don't speak ill of them at their janazah. Speak good of them, says Rasul. Mention the good things about him. One day Rasulullah passed a janazah and people were speaking good about the janazah, about the person. Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, "Wajabat lahu," it is wajib for him. Another janazah passed, people were saying not so good things. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Wajabat lahu," it is compulsory for him. So Umar radiallahu anhu asked afterwards, "Ya Rasulullah, I observed and I heard you say, wajabat lahu, it is wajib for him after people praised him. And you said the same after people spoke ill of him. What is this wajabat lahu that is compulsory?" Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that if people speak good about him at his janazah, then Jannah becomes wajib for him. Jannah becomes compulsory for him. And if people speak ill about him, if people have nothing good to say about him, then Jahannam becomes compulsory for him. So that's why it's important to always show utmost respect and honor to the deceased. Speak the good things. When we make the ghusl, see, that's why the ulama always say that the deceased person, they feel what they normally feel when they're alive. And there's a hadith of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam states that if you were to break the leg of a deceased person, it is as well as you have broken it while he's alive. Meaning you can feel it. So we need to be careful how we handle the bodies, how we wash the body, take care of how we make the kafan, respect the honor and the dignity of the person, cover the awrah of the person, make sure that the awrah is not exposed. Make sure that when you're part of the ghusl of the mayyit, it is not allowed for you to speak afterwards of what we have seen. You can't go and speak to the world of what you have seen of the deceased body. So respect the honor of the person that you are making his ghusl, the deceased person, because of the hadith that we have mentioned. so far almost 4 or 5 hadith speaking about how the deceased person is aware of what's happening. And also importantly, when we at the janazah, always try to speak good about the person. Because as in hadith, as I've mentioned, it will be in favor of the person. It might be a reason why Allah bestows His rahmah, Allah grants him Jannah because of the good that people mention. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us a tawfiq and understanding. Wa akhiru da'wan alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.